Hello and welcome to episode 95 of the Coming of Cage podcast, your Nicolas Cage movie review podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Derek, and your other host, Ryan, is right alongside me, at least virtually.
Virtually, yes. And we are here in the coldest week of the year so far in Kansas City.
Woo!
I am fully bundled up because my office is cold, and we are ready to warm up talking about a fiery movie with lots of fire and flaming themes.
It's wild. It's really a wild film,
Yeah, it
you
will fill
know.
your heart with feelings of something. I haven't figured out what, even though I watched it. But yes, we were talking about the 1990 rated R David Lynch movie, Wild at Heart.
That's right.
Hold the applause. Hold the applause. I know everybody's been waiting for this movie.
I mean, it's an iconic film. It's a notable film. Um, it's, David Lynch is an interesting guy, and I just want to apologize. I think when we were talking last time about like doing like the wheel and the movie came up, I think I kept calling him John Lynch for some reason. I have the feeling that I did it, but David Lynch.
I feel like I would have
Uh,
corrected you if I heard that, but maybe
okay,
not.
maybe I didn't then. I don't know, but yeah, I mean, Twin Peaks and Blue Velvet and Dune and all those good
Industrial
things.
Symphony, whatever it was.
That's Industrial Symphony number one, The Dreams of the Brokenhearted, which
Yeah,
is technically a sequel to Wild at Heart
somehow.
somehow. Yeah, Wild at Heart stars Nicolas Cage, of course, as well as Laura Dern, Willem Dafoe, who was also in a movie with Nicolas Cage called Dog Eat Dog, Crispin Glover, who was in Racing with the Moon with Nicolas Cage. But lots of other people in this movie as well. J.E. Freeman, Diane Ladd, who, by the way, is Laura Dern's mother, which is kind of interesting. Harry Dean Stanton, who many people probably recognize and know, among a few more. This is an iconic film. This is a dark comedy psychological drama
Yep.
for what that's worth about quote young lovers Sailor and Lula run from the variety of weirdos that Lula's mom has hired to kill Sailor.
And that is a description of it.
It's not inaccurate.
No.
Uh,
Um, yeah. Yeah. I mean, iconic. I can see why people would call it iconic, but iconic doesn't necessarily mean good.
Agreed.
Um, I can I wanted to say I can understand why people would like this movie, but I mean there's a lot of artistic things in it that are definitely choices that I didn't really resonate with me, but maybe resonate with some people. And I know David Lynch fans are a very outspoken group, so I hope you don't, you know, completely hate me for not getting it, but I literally, after watching this movie, I had to Google, I don't understand Wild at Heart, explain it to me. And everything I read seemed like the people that were trying to explain it didn't all, the theories were so deep about this movie
Hmm.
and the meaning of it. I think there's one that they're two people trapped in purgatory. And it's
Yeah.
like, and you know, that might be true. I don't, if it is, maybe I'm just too stupid. If you want me to just admit that, listeners that are David Lynch fans, maybe I'm just too stupid. And I'm, admitting that here on the podcast. But I
I'm not
don't
gonna
get it.
let you. I'm not gonna let you do that. Look, another famous David Lynch film that I have seen that also makes no sense is Eraserhead, which is another movie where some people theorize that it takes place in purgatory as well. Have you seen Eraserhead?
No, I haven't seen any David Lynch anything up until we watched the Industrial Symphony.
Oh, okay,
That was my
okay.
first experience, which was an experience
I like
also.
Dune.
Oh
Twin
no,
Peaks is interesting.
I guess I've seen Dune.
Yeah, Dune and
Original
Twin
Dune.
Peaks are interesting.
Yeah.
Colin McLaughlin's great,
Yeah.
But anyway, that's a tangent. I think David Lynch fans are just very hardcore. So my history with Wild at Heart is a little bit different than my history with most of the movies that we've watched, which fall into one of two categories. I either love them and watch them a lot, like Con Air and The Rock, or not, National Treasure and Ghost Rider, or I had never seen them before, like Pig, right? Um, this is a movie that I got to see last year at the Oscars Museum Theater with a full crowd of David Lynch fans. They had a David Lynch night. My wife and I happened to be in LA at the time and went and saw this there. And I don't think any, like, you think it's weird watching this movie and feeling like you don't understand it. Imagine being in an auditorium of 300 other people who all seemingly get it, but you don't. It was they're laughing at scenes. I don't laugh once watching this movie. There's nothing funny to me in this movie. They're cracking up at different scenes. So I don't get it either. I think sometimes people like The Surfer, which we talked about last time. I think some people want more meaning than there might actually be.
Well, I mean, I think people can interpret things however they want.
Of course.
And there's clearly layers to this. I don't think there's any debating that from me anyway, that this is a layered movie. I don't know what the layers are. Like I understand there are different layers, but why they're there or what the relation between them is, I couldn't begin to explain to you. But yeah, I mean, I can understand. I feel like this is the early or one of the early movies that's kind of like that we talked about with The Surfer. But I do think that the direction in this is probably more experienced
Mm-hmm.
and nuanced than something like The Surfer. So I think that this movie isn't just made so people like, like Donnie Darko, where people are like, oh, you only these people get it. I don't think it was made that way. I never got that vibe from it. It was more just like this creator is trying to do something, and I maybe, this small crowd really does get what he's trying to put across. Because there was intent here for sure, and I definitely didn't feel like that necessarily in The Surfer.
No, I think that's certainly true. I mean, whether or not you think a David Lynch production makes sense, I think he or was rest in peace, David Lynch. I think he was a good director. I think the movie is shot well. I think for the most part it's edited well, and I think it's at least
The
interesting.
artistry, yeah, the artistry can't be argued by any
Right.
means.
It is worth noting for those who don't know, it is based off of a novel of the same title by John Eldridge. However, if you notice the movie says it's also written by David Lynch, that's because he did change aspects of the story. I have not read the novel. I do not know what those changes are, but I do think it's important to call that out.
Fair enough. So yeah, if you haven't listened to this podcast before, this is a movie where I could see some people starting to listen to our podcast for this movie, or at least
Welcome.
checking this one out. Yeah, if you're here for that, welcome. I hope I don't offend you too much, because if that's you, you're probably a David Lynch fan. And like I said, you could just assume I'm too stupid for this movie. But we are going to go through, and the way I usually do it is I write down notes through the movie that I find interesting or that we should talk about. And we just kind of go through them and try and, determine our thoughts on the movie. And then at the end, we rate it and go from there. Um, yeah, so we can start here at the beginning, unless there's something else you want to mention before we start, Derek.
No, that's good. Let's do it.
Okay. So we only got two title screens. Something we check out in these Nicolas Cage movies is oftentimes there's 12 different production companies involved. So we definitely notate that usually. But on this one, there was only two, which is not unusual for this era of Nick Cage. Usually there's only one or two on these early movies. And the movie starts off with fire.
Mm-hmm.
Just things burning, fire.
It's like Terminator
Um,
2.
kind of, yeah. And there's no real context given at this point, but fire does play a pretty major role throughout the movie. Every time there's like a cigarette lit or a lighter flicked or whatever, there's like a sound effect and a focus on the flame. Oftentimes, sometimes pulling up the same imagery from the beginning of the movie. Um, But right away we get Nicolas Cage and Laura Dern, uh, kind of being very flirtatious with each other, walking through a lobby of something, and a guy comes up to Nicolas Cage and asks like if he fucked her yet or something like that. It's very right out of the gate tells you exactly what you can expect from this movie in terms of content. Um, and he's like, "Well, this lady paid me to kill you because you tried to fuck her in the bathroom or something like that." Basically, he's implying that Nicolas Cage fucked the girl he's with, who's Laura Dern's mom, in the bathroom,
Right.
and that she wants him killed for it. So apparently, it was really bad sex, if that's the truth. I don't know, but the guy pulls out the knife, and Nicolas Cage just beats the shit out of this guy and kills him.
It's pretty brutal. He's slamming the dude's head into the ground over and over again, picks him up and throws him into a wall. Um, all things considered, I mean, it shows that Sailor is a very wild, intense character immediately.
Yeah, it also shows that this is kind of there's a word I'm looking for.
Okay.
When it's something is like all to the point of being unrealistic. Like
Absurdity.
kind of yeah. I mean, that is a word. That's not the one I was looking for, but it was kind of like this is almost cartoonish
Mm.
in the way things happen in this movie. Everything is over the top, out from the acting to the fight choreography to everything is way over the top. Not in a real. This doesn't take place in a world that is realistic.
It's all kind of exaggerated, almost
Yes,
caricature-esque at times.
caricaturized is what I was thinking of. Yes, yeah, and that starts right away with this fight because if you're somebody that's enjoyed as much action and fight media as I have and seen real fights in real life, if you're slamming somebody's head into the ground like that and there's that much blood, they are not helping you get them up off the ground to then be thrown into the wall. They are going to be on the ground unconscious and you're going to be picking up 150 plus pounds of dead weight and
That's
you're
just
not going
how
to be throwing that into the wall.
that's how strong Sailor is, man.
He's not that strong. The guy gets up, and like that guy is not going to be conscious in any way, able to be lift themselves up. So right away, you kind of get an idea that this is like a caricaturized, over the
Hmm.
top thing. Everything in this movie is meant to make Sailor look, you know, cool or crazy or you know, there's a lot. Anything there's so much of this movie that is all based on driving or making you think a certain way about these characters. But
Yeah.
but it isn't subtle like it would be in a normal movie. It's all like a very in your face
Hmm.
from his
Sailor's
accent, everything.
the accent is a little rough. He's basically doing an Elvis Presley impression,
And it comes and goes.
um, on and off throughout the movie. But yeah, he's our flawed hero, who is deeply in love with Lulu. That's the whole point, right? It's about their love story and the adventure, so to speak, that they go on together, and how her mother handles it.
Yeah.
Which, spoiler alert, not well. She doesn't handle it
Yeah,
well.
and at the beginning you're not really sure why the mom would pay to have him killed. I guess in that point I was assuming it was because she didn't want the daughter to find out that they had sex in the bathroom. Because at that point you don't really know if it happened or not.
Yeah, I mean, in the very, very beginning, I feel like it's implied that like he forced himself on her, is what she's trying to say, which of course we find out later is not true, and he's deeply in love with Lula and would never, do anything like that. But we don't know that yet. So I think that's what the implication is supposed to be. So this guy attacking him probably thinks he's on the side of justice.
Probably, yeah.
Plus he made a few bucks. That's kind of what he's thinking.
Yeah. Um, I don't know if you remember because it's been years.
Okay.
When it wasn't even on this podcast because we haven't reviewed the original Ghost Rider on this podcast yet.
Right.
But when on our previous podcast, Screen Heroes, we reviewed Ghost Rider at one point. And I remember bringing up, and I think I've brought it up from other movies that Nicolas Cage has done. I don't know
Okay.
if you're going to catch on to where I'm going with this, but he does this point,
Yes.
And I think this movie is the origin, the first time we ever see him do that point. We haven't seen him do it in any movie that came before this.
Doesn't he do it in Vampire's Kiss?
Did he do it in Vampire's Kiss? I thought it was like the full, like, erect finger point in Vampire's Kiss. I'm talking
Yeah,
about the curved, slightly
yeah.
curved finger point.
I mean, I think it's close. I think maybe he was figuring it out in Vampire's Kiss. That's like the proto point,
Yes.
And then this is like prime time.
I think if we ever interviewed Nicolas Cage, like if we get through all his movies and we contact his agent and they're like, "Wow, you watched all of his movies? Yeah, I'll get you an interview with him." That would be one of like the top 5 questions I'd want to ask him. And as basic as it sounds, he does this point with his finger that where it's like most people have it like erect, for lack of a better term, like fully flexed. But when he does this point, it's like slightly curved
Hmm.
and he does it. I first noticed it as a fan in Ghost Rider
Yeah.
because when he's in full like Ghost Rider form, they animate that curved point into it, and it's exaggerated. It's
Mm.
exaggerated when it's a skeleton,
That's
but
funny.
then when I seen him do it in other movies, I'm like, okay, so they kept what he did.
Hmm.
It wasn't like a choice they made for the Ghost Rider character. But yeah, he does that towards. Sorry, that was a big tangent, but
No, I got you. Yeah.
I do love when we get to see that curved finger point from him. But he does that towards Diane Ladd's character,
Well,
Marietta.
this was an interesting part of his career where I think he really was finding who he was going to be as an actor, right? Because this was 1990. All right. So the same year he did Firebirds, the year after he did Zondali, but before this, he did Time to Kill in 89, Vampire's Kiss in 88, and then Moonstruck and Raising Arizona in 87. So this was a pretty like influential, significant part of his career before he became the action star.
Right.
And he does talk a bit about how he thinks this movie broke him out of trying to be a method actor because the way David Lynch was doing this, there were so many rewrites and so many reshoots and kind of adjustments that there was no way for him to stay method, and
Yeah.
that broke him out of it. And he thinks that he carried that with him after this movie. And so I do think this may have been a significant, I don't know, not turning point, but like pivotal milestone
Interesting.
as an actor.
Well, also, he's from what I've read about Nick, he's very eccentric, kind of like what I've read about David Lynch. At the very
Hmm.
least, David Lynch's movies are come across as a bit eccentric. So I feel like he probably hadn't worked with a director that had that same kind of connection.
Yeah.
I've actually never heard anybody talk about their experience working with David Lynch in a negative way. Every
No.
actor that I've talked about it, that I've heard talk about it, talks about how wonderful the sets are and how actors really get to do something, which is,
Yes.
as even if I don't like his movies or don't understand them, that's a pretty amazing praise from some of the actors he's worked with because he's worked with, look at the list on
Huge.
this movie. Though
Hmm.
they maybe not weren't huge then, but now they're like household names. Um, so
Well, and
yeah,
the actors, he cared for his actors. For example, he knew when he hired, he cast Nick and Laura to do this, that there was going to be a lot of intimacy and sex scenes and things like that. He recommended before any shooting happened at all that the two of them go and spend a few days together to get to know each other. So that way those scenes would be less awkward and less uncomfortable and they could, kind of feel more feel more comfortable in those situations. Lots of directors don't do that. A lot of productions don't do that. There's even stories about movies where the first thing shot is a sex scene, and these actors are literally meeting on set for this, right? So, like David Lynch movies, don't like David Lynch movies, he certainly seemed like a good person who tried to do right by his cast and crew.
yeah, yeah, agreed. And I think they ended up dating.
Did they? I don't think I knew that.
Nicolas Cage and Laura Dern. I'm pretty sure they had a relationship after
I
this
must have
movie.
forgotten. Yeah,
I
that's
mean,
fun.
I may be wrong, but I think I remember reading about that.
Mm,
But in any case, yeah, there was, we're getting a little bit ahead of ourselves, but there's a lot of sex scenes in this movie. There's
yes.
basically breasts in every scene, almost.
There's a lot.
I mean,
I didn't keep count, but there's a
and they
lot.
don't really add. I don't understand why. Again, maybe I'm too stupid, but it just seemed like they just wanted breasts in the movie.
In some of it, not in like maybe Laura Dern's case, but the other character, Mr. Reindeer, who I don't know what you would call his character, like, but he basically has like half naked women walking around with him in his house 24/7, as like servants or something. And I don't know what that.
But sure, but then there's like also just like a few topless overweight women that just come out like in
There
the
is
middle
that.
of of this desert hotel, and like I mean,
That's where they were shooting the adult film Texas style.
right, but like did that add anything to the movie?
Not to me personally, but I don't
That's what I'm
really
saying.
know.
Like there's just so many boobs in this movie that don't seem to really add anything constructive to the movie. I
Yeah.
don't know. But yeah, so he goes to jail for 22 months and 18 days for manslaughter.
Yep.
And Lula goes and picks him up from the jail when he gets out, and they immediately go have sex. There's immediately a sex scene with woman on top sex, which is one of our bingo card squares.
That's right.
Um, yeah, and then we get a scene of we get a scene of what happened right after a child's rape
Yeah.
of Lula as a child with a bloodied face and a overweight old guy zipping up his pants.
There's a lot
And
of
this is not the
flashbacks.
only time we see this, and I don't, I still don't understand why we needed to see that.
Um, so I've tried to figure it out. So there's two main flashbacks that we get, and we get them multiple times. But one is this, and then the other is the fire that kills her dad. And so I guess the idea is supposed to show the traumatic past that she has and the
But
connections that that past has with her mother, right? Because her mother's kind of the crux of the whole film. None of this movie really happens, at least not most of it, if her mom doesn't try and stop the two of them from being together. So I think the goal is to kind of illustrate the past that the two of them had before Sailor, um, to kind of show that she doesn't have good adult role models in her life. At least we don't really know much about her dad, but he's dead, and her mother was part of it. And then I think this old guy I think was her uncle, and
yeah,
he's obviously a dirtbag, and
but not
things like
really an
that.
uncle. It's like
Right,
they specify that it wasn't really an uncle.
right. And so like it's just one of those things where like it's the movie is showing us her traumatic past.
Yeah, which there are some scene. There's another scene where which we'll get to where like I think Sailor is feeling up her breasts at some point, and she's talking about her dead dad at the
Yep.
same time, and so part of me is like, well, they're trying to make this not like a sexual thing. They're trying to like show the dichotomy between sexually traumatic past and sexual present
Hmm.
and make it not like not to turn viewers on. It's to,
Right.
show this. But then there's scenes where it's just straight up sex and there's not that. So I mean, I don't know. I'm trying to get the meaning
No,
out of it.
I think that's right though. I think you're on the right track. There is they love each other, Sailor and Lulu. They do love each other and they are sleeping together and there is a romantic aspect to that. But there is also the trauma that Lulu has, which includes sexual trauma, and so there's a complexity there that psychologically does create some other problems. And so I think both exist at the same time. The movie's trying to walk that line of showing both the positive and the uncomfortable aspects of that.
Gotcha. We get our first flashback to the night where Sailor killed the guy. And this is a scene in the bathroom with the mom. And it seems like in this scene that the mom is trying to fuck Sailor. Like
Yeah.
she's coming on to him. But we don't see if that happens or not. We just kind of we see that the mom is the one that's trying like instigating this whole thing. And we find out that that Sailor was a driver for Santos, who's like a crime dude. I
Yeah, I mean,
don't
for
know.
lack of a better term, he's a mob boss,
See, I thought he
right?
was a mob boss too, but there's no mob. Where's the mob? I mean, we never see anything about the mob. He does all the work himself. A mob boss doesn't go do the work themselves.
Well, he
I don't know.
hires people, right? Like they do the whole silver dollar thing, and he hires the two assassins. Like, I mean, I don't know the appropriate terminology for
Yeah,
these
I get what you're
jobs,
saying.
but
That's what I was thinking too, but I just feel like there was never really any reference to the mob. It just felt like he was a criminal that
yeah, he's a
had
guy who knows
connections.
people. Yeah,
Yeah. And we get a scene of a dance scene with Sailor and Lula, which is really great. And then we get Nick singing, which didn't seem like maybe it was really Nick singing, but
it is.
is it? I
It
mean,
is.
it wasn't bad.
Anytime he sings in this movie, it is really him, which
I
includes
mean,
the ending.
I should have known because his voice is very distinctive, but it was definitely had some corrective service done, which is fine. Mine would too. I'm not faulting him for that. And he said that nobody wants to hear him sing in interviews
Oh,
before. He said that a bunch of times, but it was pretty good. I mean, it was solid, and the scene was good. Um, yeah. I think this is where he gets in the fight with the guy that is like brushing up against Lula, and it's kind of like that's okay. I mean, it's just shows it makes him seem like he's a good guy, even though he's assaulting this dude for literally just dancing with his girlfriend when his girlfriend didn't say anything or do anything that would be like, no, don't do this.
so yeah, this goes back to like what is his character supposed to be? He's supposed to be our flawed hero, and I think part of what they talk about throughout the movie and what you get at the very tail end of the movie, right? Is, you know, he's this wild guy. He's wild at heart, right? But there's also like toxic masculinity wrapped in all of this
Yeah,
stuff where he feels like he has to defend his woman, right? And he has to stand up, in front of, people and not be pushed around and bullied, yada, 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 yada. And the movie helps him a bit by making the other guy also an asshole.
yeah,
Right, because that guy swings first, right? And so he gets Sailor gets to be the hero because he's the Han Solo in the situation, and it's the special edition where Greedo shoots first. So, like he gets a helping hand in that sense, but he still gets to save the day.
right. Yeah, but it didn't make him for me come across as any better of a character. It was like
No,
he still was the one that was like, "You're rubbing up on my girl." Why didn't Lula just say, "Hey, I've got a boyfriend. Can you just back off?" or something like that?
well, everything stops, right? Like Sailor has the band stop playing, the music cuts, everyone's freezes, so he can kind of like emasculate this other guy.
But everything in this entire world is centered around Lula and Sailor. So, like, literally, when he wants to sing, he just goes to the singer and he's like, "Hey, do you guys know this?" And before he even finishes the sentence about the song, they throw in the mic and they all know what he's gonna do, even
But
though he's
that's
never met this band before, presumably. Like it,
yeah,
everything in this entire world of this movie is centered around Sailor, basically.
and that's what leads credence to the theories that like, well, maybe he's in purgatory or something like that, because it does seem there are some otherworldly aspects to the movie, right? We have a crystal ball a couple of times. You've got Glinda the Good Witch shows up at the tail end of the movie. There's a lot of Wizard of Oz imagery throughout the film and talk from Lulu. So like there are some things to lead it to like, well, maybe this isn't actually happening.
Sure. I mean, I guess I can see that to an extent. I don't really understand the Wizard of Oz references. We'll get to that. Because they get heavier later in the movie, more in your face. They're a little lighter in the beginning.
Yeah.
But yeah, yeah. I mean, Lula is basically a damsel the entire movie. She doesn't do anything, really brave or, you know,
Not much.
powerful. She's there to be rescued and be a sex person, a sexual being, and love Sailor. That's her entire character is built around loving Sailor and nothing else.
Until the very end of the movie when she turns out to be a good mother, apparently.
Yeah, which is great. I
Yeah,
mean, that was the only development she really gets, though, other than like you
correct.
find out more about her backstory.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, so here's the part I was talking about. He's playing with her boobs for a little while in the hotel room, and she looks down and laughs, and she says, "You remind me of my daddy."
Yeah.
And she says something about he liked, you know, perky titties and or something like that. And it's like, oh my God, this is not great. But yeah, then they talk about his death a little bit, but still hasn't admitted. She doesn't know he was around for that or, any part of that, but we're kind of getting the vibe that he had something to do with that.
Hmm.
And yeah, he's still fondling boobs even after the discussion of the dad's death. Um, yeah. My next note is that they hired two hitmen for Sailor. One was the mom. The mom wants them broken up. There's like been phone calls. When Sailor got out of jail, the mom was like, "Don't call here again." When she goes to pick him up, I mean, basically she's hiring hitmen to go kill him again. And one of them was like on again, off again lover. Well, they're both really on again, off again lovers, I guess. Um,
Well, so it's complicated. So she hires the first guy, is
Johnny.
yeah, Johnny, Harry Dean Stanton's character. He's he's like the wannabe boyfriend of Marietta, Diane Ladd's character. And I don't know that he's gonna kill Sailor. I think he's being sent to bring back Lulu. But Marietta doesn't think that he's gonna be able to pull it off, so she hires Santos to kill Sailor.
Yeah.
But
But
then
Santos is
Santos,
a much less like the other character. Johnny is more like of a heartfelt. He has more of
yeah,
an emotional character, whereas Santos just wants to get with Marietta, the mom, and you know,
he wants to kill people. So he's also
yeah,
Santos is also gonna kill Johnny
yeah,
because why not? Whereas Johnny, I feel like, he thinks that he is with Marietta, but he's not.
right. Um, New Orleans is my next note. They're heading through New Orleans,
Yeah,
which we do have a square on the bingo card for takes place in New Orleans, which I think this would qualify for because it does partially.
100%.
Um,
I didn't have that square this time, of course, but
Me either, I don't think, but
uh
I'll have to check. But yeah, if they go through there and there's this whole thing with like silver dollars, even though they weren't silver dollars, they were half dollars, I feel like. I don't know enough about currency. But
I'm pretty sure they were silver dollars.
were they?
I'm fairly
I thought they
confident.
were the 50-cent pieces is what they looked like, but I
I
could
didn't freeze frame
be
it,
true.
but
Either way, this is like how the mob communicates or something. I don't know, something with like how hitmen communicate with silver
yeah, it's
dollars.
like using code and stuff. Like there's that
It's
whole
like the
phone
coins in
call.
John Wick.
Well, yeah, very much. Yes, actually. But you talk in code so that way if the feds are listening in, there's no evidence.
Right. And so we get a scene with like I guess the head mob guy that where he's has topless women serving him aspirin and Pepto-Bismol.
Yeah, that's Mr. Reindeer. I don't really understand this character at all.
He has women literally with like topless women with silver platters standing on either side of him. One has like Pepto-Bismol, a full thing of Pepto-Bismol on the platter, and the other one has like aspirin.
Well, earlier when he's on the phone, he's literally on the toilet, and there's a woman
Yes,
who's topless
dancing.
dancing for him there. So maybe he's just not feeling well during the film. I don't
It's
maybe
weird.
that's the subtext.
It's
He's not feeling
unclear.
too
But
well.
see, let's say this takes place in purgatory, right? Per that theory.
Yeah.
Why in purgatory is there somebody that is not feeling well? You know what I'm saying?
I
Like
don't know,
I feel
man.
like for all the theories that what this is, there's equal evidence as to what it isn't. So that's why I don't
Right.
know that anybody really understands exactly what necessarily David Lynch was going for with this, except David Lynch.
No, I'm 100%. I don't think they're in purgatory.
Yeah.
So I'm with you. It doesn't really work for me.
Also, people die in this movie. So, are they dying in purgatory, which is a place where souls are already at? Like, why would they be? How could they die?
Maybe
I
that
don't know.
sends them to hell.
I guess.
I don't know.
I don't think that's how purgatory works, but um,
Unclear.
unclear. Yeah, we get more sex between Sailor and Nick, and in this one, she talks about how great his cock is, and that it has a voice of its own.
It talks to her when it's inside of
Yes.
her. Yeah. I'm probably
Yeah.
not supposed to find that funny, but I do think that's hilarious.
He also says he had a boner with a capital O.
Yeah, I don't know what that means.
Just the O and boner is
Just yeah,
capitalized?
the
I
rest
don't
of it's
know.
lowercase. It's like a password.
Yeah, and then
The
more
E's a
sex.
three.
Basically, I think that happens because him and Lula are like at a bar or something, and he's talking about his ex-girlfriend.
Yeah, he's talking about being with another woman, and it's
Yeah, and it
turning her
shows
on.
flashbacks, and he's like, she wouldn't suck my dick, and she's like, oh, she missed out. And and the more like he goes to talk about it, she's like, oh, you better get me to the hotel room because I got like a thunderstorm in my pants or something like that.
No, she says she's hotter than Georgia asphalt,
Right.
which is
Um,
that's a great line.
yeah, and then we get more cage sex. Um,
As you do.
and then we get a scene. So the mom starts panicking because she calls Santos or like about killing Lula or killing Sailor, but then she starts panicking that he's gonna actually, or no, he says he's gonna kill Johnny
Right.
also. That he's only gonna do it if she lets him kill Johnny too. And she doesn't expressly give him permission, but he just is like, okay, I'm gonna kill Johnny also. And so she starts freaking out about it and trying to get a hold of Santos. But then she just starts covering herself in lipstick.
hmm Now she starts on her wrist like a person would if they were like self-harming. And but then it just ends up being like everywhere.
Right.
And she
And
gets sick.
she got nominated for an Oscar for this movie, so
She did Best Supporting Actress.
I'm again, I feel like there's something that I don't understand.
I
I'm not saying her acting was bad. Her acting was very good. I just don't know what it was supposed to be. I didn't understand it.
I mean, she's clearly unraveling. I think the thing with her character, she's worried that her daughter is going to find out that she worked with Santos to have her husband killed, essentially. But I mean, so she was up against, just for those who are curious, Whoopi Goldberg won for Ghost that year. Annette Bening was up for The Grifters, Lorraine Bracco for Goodfellas, and Mary McDowell for Dances with Wolves. Pretty stacked group, frankly. So I mean, I don't know where Diane Ladd would have ranked of those five women, but I understand why she didn't win.
So then we get the story about Jingle Dell, who is Crispin Glover's character, who is the character that I least understand why he's in this movie. He doesn't do anything or have any relevance to the plot. As far as I can tell, again, I might be too stupid for this.
No, it's like a random anecdote.
It's a random anecdote, but then they talk about how he put cockroaches on his anus,
Yep.
and it's just like it's how could that be a random anecdote? That seems like that would be something specifically tied to the plot. I just
I, I don't
it's
I don't know that it is though. Like it can be just a random non sequitur, I think, at the end of the day. Because at this point, like Crispin Glover, he's played a lot of really weird roles over the years. And I think this is just another example of that. This is another story that Lulu is telling about another male character in her childhood who had issues. Now, his issues are a lot different and more
he dresses up
sympathetic.
like
And
Santa all year round, and when people tell him he's that it's not Christmas, he
yeah,
has like a mental breakdown.
I mean, going back to like the surfer last time, Crispin Glover's character is probably schizophrenic.
Yeah.
Right, probably. Right. I like that's probably what's going on there. But nobody understands that or no one's getting him help. And so he's just left to struggle with whatever it is that he is dealing with. And so it's just this other character who is in Lulu's life that is another male character that is not someone that can be a positive role model for her.
At no fault of his own, really. I mean,
No,
unless
no, and
he's
yeah,
it's just a
very different.
weird, but it doesn't. All it does is it. I guess it develops Lula a little bit, but it doesn't really because nothing that she had with none of the relationship that she had with him has any impact other than she
It
remembers it.
to me it supports the absurdity that we talked about earlier, right? The idea here is that most of these characters, essentially any character who speaks, is absurd in some capacity, and they're all absurd in different ways. And so this is just another aspect of that absurdity being part of Lula's life. That's how I took it.
Gotcha. Um, so then they are driving down the road and decide to pull off because the radio is all bad news. And Lula doesn't want to listen to bad news anymore, so she pulls over, starts screaming at Sailor to find a station that is music, and then he starts fight dancing on the side of
It's
the road.
fantastic. It's so great.
It's very much like if anybody that listens is an Always Sunny in Philadelphia fan, there's a character in that show that every time he dances, it's basically like shadow fighting really poorly. And that's basically what was happening. He was just like doing his Nicolas Cage high kicks and like punching the air. And
Yeah.
I mean, it was great. Don't get me wrong. It was just kind of weird, like everything else in this movie.
I mean, I think it goes to show you that like Lulu's probably struggling with some type of mental illness. We don't know what it is, right? Maybe it's, maybe she's manic depressive or bipolar in some way. Like I'm not a doctor. I'm just, but she seems to be struggling with her own thing, right? And so that set her off, that triggered her in some way, and she, went down that path, and Sailor kind of goes along with it. I think the thing with Sailor is he's this super high energy guy, and he kind of just goes down with whatever the flow of the river is, and he'll fight back when he can. Or if it's Lulu, then he'll just Lula, excuse me, he'll just go with it.
Yeah, yeah. Um,
You're like,
my
whatever,
ne
man.
next note is no. I think it makes sense. I think my next note is mom lying about Santos' involvement. I don't remember if this is part of a flashback or
No,
who
so
she's
she's
talking to
trying to
about this.
warn Johnny
Oh, that's what
because
it
she's gonna
was.
come see Johnny, and he's like freaking her out, or she's freaking him out, excuse me, and he's asking like, did she bring Santos into it? And she lies to him.
So I thought she was when she was calling him to like set up the meeting or whatever at this restaurant. I thought she was setting up Santos to kill him, like giving him
Mm,
a time and a date where the
no,
guy's going to be. But no, that wasn't it.
no, because I
Um,
think while she doesn't, I would not say that she loves Johnny. I would say that she likes having this guy who dotes on her, who will do more or less whatever she wants. And she doesn't, that doesn't mean that she loves him, but it also doesn't mean she wants him dead. There's room in between those two.
yeah, agreed. So at this point in the movie, Sailor admits to Lula that he was at the house fire
Right.
where her dad died. So earlier in the movie, it was, I think Lula said that her dad covered himself in kerosene and lit himself on fire, which obviously, as a viewer, you're like, I mean, it's unlikely that somebody did that to themselves. And with everything else, you're kind of piecing together that somebody had something to do with it, whether it was Santos or whatever. My theory right away when I heard that was that it was the mom, because the mom has already been hiring people to kill people. So
Sure.
whatever. But yeah, so he admits that he was there. He wasn't inside or anything. He was outside, but
Hmm.
that he was there and he knew her dad, which she didn't know that he knew. Um,
Doesn't seem to bother her a whole lot.
no, she gets over it immediately. But like around this point in the movie is when the Wizard of Oz references start getting like really in your face.
Hmm.
And I wonder if your wife, my friend Rachel, understood why these references were in the movie because I know she's the biggest Wizard of Oz fan that I know. If there was some relationship that she knew of that made her think that this made sense.
Yeah, so I don't know because this movie has some stuff that just makes her very uncomfortable. And so she was not thrilled watching it the first time, and she definitely did not rewatch it with me this time. And we didn't really have that conversation when we watched it last year. So I don't know. My
Okay.
understanding, as someone who's watched The Wizard of Oz many, many times, uh, because my mom was really into The Wizard of Oz, and now, my wife is really into The Wizard of Oz. So I've seen that movie like every year for most of my life. I think it has to do with the concept of escapism at the end of the day, right? So Lula's character, as we've said, had this traumatic past, and as soon as Sailor gets out of prison, they he breaks parole and they're on the road. They're just trying to escape. They're leaving everything behind. She doesn't want to face her mother, and yada yada yada. So I think the idea here is that she's wanting to go. She's the opposite of Dorothy. Dorothy wants to come home. Lula wants to go to Oz. She wants to leave the real world behind. She wants to leave responsibility and concern and trauma and all of that behind for this fairy tale ending with Sailor.
But then the Wizard of Oz references tend to gravitate more towards Sailor, though.
Well, because I think at the end of the day, that this kind of goes into like the purgatory bit of it too. Like it's Sailor's movie. So the story is Sailor's story. Lula's part of it because he loves her so much, but it's really his story. And so he's anything that she is doing or is into or is saying is like a branch off of him in some way. Like it's connected back to him. And so I think it's him as well, right? So he was there for the fire. He had to kill that guy, right? Like later he kills, he gets arrested again, yada, all these other things. He's trying to escape who he is and who his past is as well. Like we don't really know a ton about him. We get little tiny stories about him through the movie, but he has no family to really be seen in the movie. He has no friends that are to be seen in this movie. He's this lone character whose only real connection or tether to reality is Lula. And so I think he's also trying to run away.
Gotcha. So while they're driving, after she sees the Wicked Witch out the window, runs across, there's like a bunch of clothes or like a suitcase and stuff like that on the road. And so they pull over, and again, another scene that is just there for absurdity, I guess, based on your analysis, but they run across this car that's flipped over, and there's like dead people, and then there's a woman that's clearly had traumatic head injury and is dies right in front of them.
Yeah, I mean it's like it's almost like instead of purgatory, it's almost like they're going through these trials. And Lula in particular, if you want to shift the focus and say, well, it's actually not Sailor's story, it's Lula's story, the thing that would really support that would be these trials that she has to get through. So she has all the trauma from when she was a kid, right? The not an uncle, her dad, the Crispin Glover character. You've got Sailor killing a guy and going to jail, her mother forbidding it. She has to go through these trials and keep surviving. This is another one of those. It's this another absurdity, but it's another trial that she just has to get past because California, right, where they're headed, that's over the rainbow. And she can still get there if she can just push back past each of these bad things that keeps happening. So it's just like more roadblocks to just add to that trauma. Because I don't care who you are. I mean, unless maybe you've just been an EMT for 50 years and you've become numb to it all. I think coming across that on the road, it's gonna mess you up.
Yeah, for sure. But yeah, the girl dies, and I thought there was going to be some weird thing with her pulling her face off or something, because there's at one point she has this like pretty bad wound in her hair, and she's
Yeah.
like talking about how she has this sticky stuff in her hair, and it looks like the wig or hairpiece that she's wearing for this like has some sort of skin flap underneath it or something that looked
Mm.
like it might pull away, and I thought she was going to like rip half her face or something.
No, I
But
think that was just supposed to be part of her scalp.
yeah, it was gnarly, but yeah. Then I mean, Lula is traumatized by it, but they just keep going. And then we find out that allegedly Johnny went buffalo hunting. He left a note at the hotel saying that he was going to go fishing and maybe buffalo hunting. And we find out that that means he was kidnapped by a group of voodoo people. Uh,
Right. Because Mr. Reindeer gave the two coins to two different people, one for Sailor and one for Johnny. And the ones for Johnny, that's Reggie and forget the other character's name. I'm drawing a blank on it now. But these two other people who are going to go after Johnny. I didn't really understand the buffalo hunting aspect of the reference. That went over my head.
I think that was a tell to Santos that uh that it was this guy that got her, and that's what got him, and that's what was going on. But I don't really
Gotcha.
understand what like the whole voodoo scene and like the because they don't kill him right away. It's like this crazy woman that like is saying ridiculous things to him and then is like making out with this guy and everybody seems scared of her, but then he just ends up dying the second time we see him in this situation by getting shot in the head. So it's not like they're doing some weird ritual or anything. They just end up murdering him with a
Well, it's kind of
gun.
like
But
everything is very roundabout in this movie. Right? They could have just killed Johnny in his hotel room. That could have been the end of it. They could have kidnapped him and killed him immediately, and that could have been the end of it. But on the flip side, we haven't gotten to it yet. But Bobby Peru very easily could have killed Sailor any number of times and left his body in the desert, and nobody would have been the wiser. But he has to make this whole complicated, convoluted thing out of it, that gets himself killed. So it's just like a series of people overcomplicating things, and
yeah,
because of that, Sailor and Lula kind of slip through the cracks at times.
yeah. So we find out that it was in fact the mom and Santos that killed Lula's dad,
Hmm.
covered him in kerosene and lit him on fire. Um, then we run across this like they run across Lula and Sailor are staying in like this weird like desert hotel
Yeah.
or motel probably. It's almost like trailer homes kind of set up.
They're like
Um,
bungalows or something.
yeah, something like that, but they're really like not nice. Lula pukes in it like as soon as they get there, and then it just never gets cleaned up through the rest of the movie. And they're constantly commenting on the smell. There's flies all over it.
I find this whole bit very confusing to me. So neither time I watched it did this make sense. I don't understand why they stay there as long as they do. Everything about it screams terrible idea. Everything. Every single thing from the moment they get there and they're hanging out like at the little campfire that night to what happens the next day, like just time after time, like get the fuck out.
I think it's a couple things. I think it's Lula doesn't feel well and is sick, combined with the car needs maintenance.
I
Those things
guess.
are what keeps them there. But yeah, they get there and she pukes right away. And as soon as that happened, my partner that was watching the movie with me goes, "She's pregnant." Like, yeah, yeah, probably. And so she nailed that. But
uh,
yeah, there's like it's just a bunch of weird guys talking about a porno that's being filmed there, and then Willem Dafoe's character shows up, and a bunch of like uh larger women are running around topless, like three of them.
I think they're from the porno,
Right, but they're
but
just like hanging out.
I don't know.
It's
It's
very
like,
weird. But yeah, Willem Dafoe's character is clearly like a skis ball. He's meant to be like this dirtbag kind of guy,
yeah.
um, that you don't trust. Um, but yeah, we do find out that she's pregnant. Um, but she can't tell him. She has to write it on a note.
But that's the thing. Like immediately after meeting these people and her not feeling well, I'm like, all right, well, let's get the car fixed. I'm gonna fix it because Sailor's doing it himself, right? So just fucking do it and leave. They're just like dilly dallying, taking their sweet time, and her clothes keep changing. So time keeps passing. She keeps changing her clothes and she's always dressed like she's never like wearing crap. She's always like really nicely put together. So time is going by. They're there for days.
Yeah,
And seemingly he just changes the oil. I don't know what else he does. That's all he
right.
seems to do. So I just don't understand why they're there for like a week.
I don't know if they were there that long. I feel like she was like her clothes were getting puke on them or something because she was getting sick.
I mean, maybe it has to be at least 3 or 4 days.
It seemed like 2 days to me.
Okay. I
Like
mean,
they got there that night, that evening, and she puked, and you know, then they go talk to the guys, go back to the room. The next morning, he's going out to change the oil, and she has the thing happen with Defoe, and then
that's that next day.
I think so.
I feel like there's a day in between.
I don't know, man. I didn't get that, but
Yeah.
maybe.
Okay.
But yeah, so the next morning, Nick is out changing the oil in the car, and Defoe's character, Bobby Peru, comes and knocks on the door, and she's alone, and she lets him in because he says he needs to pee. So he goes and pees. There isn't is a door. I'm not sure.
Fun
Uh,
fact. Apparently he really did pee because he thought it was a real toilet and it was a prop toilet and he felt really bad after the fact.
Yeah, but he comments on the puke on the floor and and then after he's done peeing, he talks about how she wants to fuck him and he very aggressively sexually assaults her.
Yeah, it's
And like
awful.
and he's basically trying to get her to say fuck me. And he's rubbing her through her like negligee that she's wearing and just it's not a comfortable scene. And eventually says "fuck me" to get him out, and he says, "I'm not going to. I'll do it maybe some other time," and like leaves like it's a joke,
Well,
and
it's
then
all a power move, right? Like, it's awful.
and immediately goes to Nicolas Cage and is like, "Hey, let's go take a trip." And so like go get a beer. And so he goes to get a beer with Nick and tells him that he's got this thing that's like a perfect setup to get money if and how $5,000 could help him out quite a bit and blah blah blah. And Nick's like, no, I'm not going to do that. But finally he convinces him to do it. And so he's supposed to meet him like the next or that night, I think.
That's the next day.
The next morning. So this
Yeah,
would be the second day. But yeah, at 10 in the morning or something. So they go do that. And they put the pantyhose on their heads and they go to this like I guess bank out in the middle of nowhere.
I guess that's what it looked like, or like a depot. Maybe it was like the train depot.
Yeah. And there's like this weird crystal ball scene where it shows a crystal ball and it
It's the
shows
second
them
time.
making a plan in this crystal ball.
That's where like like there's some funkiness going on that's like supernatural-esque because that's the second time we see a crystal ball.
Yeah.
And so it's like, well, is that real? Like, who's seeing that? Like, are we supposed to believe that the magic is real in this movie? I don't know.
I don't know either. But he gets back, he's not sure if he's going to do it or not, but he gets back to the hotel room or in the motel room and he's taking off his pants and he's wearing like bikini briefs, which was I was not expecting.
It kind of reminded me of what he wore in The Family Man.
Yeah, there's some similarities. It was a weird choice, but I mean, sure. Um,
Not that I'm paying attention to Nick's underwear, but
right. So Defoe goes and picks him up, and they go to do this robbery, and they have so earlier in the movie, Nick met this, I don't know what to call her, like informant person to ask if he was like if he had any hits out on him, like this person would know. It's the
yeah,
only person we really meet from his past.
I think, well, because it seems like maybe she also used to work for Santos,
Yeah,
so they were both in this like seedy underworld at the same time kind of thing, and maybe they like hooked up or something.
but Defoe's character knows her, and she's the getaway driver
Right.
for this crime in the most obvious vehicle of all time. But so she's staying in the car, but the other two guys, Nick and Willem go put their pantyhose on their head and grab their guns. Um, Defoe has like a double barrel shotgun, and Nick gets like a little revolver, 38 special, I think they said it is. Um, and they go in to rob this bank, and they rob it and get the money. And on the way out, they kept saying like nobody's gonna get hurt, nobody's gonna get hurt. Well, Defoe shoots one of the tellers
Hmm.
right away. And Nick's like, whoa, we weren't going to do that. And while this is happening, there's a cop outside that just showed up to this random bumfuck bank
Unfortunate
and
timing.
uh, and is talking to the woman in the car. Um, and so Defoe ends up shooting both the tellers who don't die. One just has his hands blown off, and the other one is still alive after being shot in the chest, apparently. But the cop like goes to try and figure out what's going on, and the woman like hits him with the car and drives away, runs away. And when they run outside, or Nick tries to shoot Willem in the inside the bank, but he finds out that his gun didn't have any bullets in it, or had he said it had blanks in it, but blanks still fire.
He called them
So
dummies.
yeah, I guess dummies are different too, but yeah.
So I don't know. I don't
Well,
know enough about that,
dummies would be
but
like non-firing rounds, so I guess that makes sense.
right? Yeah.
But yeah, and so he runs outside, and Willem Dafoe chases him, and the cop is rolling around on the ground, but sees what's happening and tells him to stop. And Dafoe reloads the gun, and is getting ready to shoot the cop. The cop is shooting him and shoots him like 4 times, and then Dafoe like falls down and shoots his own head off.
Is that how his head blows off? Because it makes no sense that the cop's gun would do that. So
Yeah,
I was
he
like,
like fell on the shotgun or something like
okay,
that and blew his own head off.
that makes more sense at least. I was like, why does his head blow?
But then we get a scene from like the cashiers inside the bank, and one of
Yeah,
them just has their hands blown off. But he's looking for his hands,
yeah.
and there's a dog now, and it grabs one of the hands and runs away.
So I can tell you why that happens. That is a callback to Eraserhead. In Eraserhead, which is a much older movie, 1977, much older movie. I'm not going to explain this movie, but something that happens at the tail end of the movie is our main character's head pops off and flies into the air a very long distance, possibly into another dimension, and lands on a street and rolls into the curb. And a kid picks it up and runs away with it. I took this as being like the exact same weird appendage running away thing, very out of place in the movie.
But again, if this is Sailor's movie and he's in purgatory, why does this
I
even need to be done?
I don't know, man. It doesn't really make any more sense than Eraserhead, by the way. I'm not gonna I don't get me started on Eraserhead. Let's move back
Okay.
into it. I don't know, but I think it's a callback to Eraserhead.
Yeah, so so Defoe's dead. Um, Nick gets down on the ground because the cop is like arresting him or whatever. And he goes back to jail for 5 years, 10 months, and 21 days. Um, so Lula is going to go pick him up, and there passes another accident in the street,
Yeah.
which doesn't really have any relevance. She doesn't like do anything about it. It's just a thing that happens. Um, he gets out of jail, she picks him up, and he like gets to see his son for the first time. So that's fun. Um, but then he's like he can there's like it's not the same between him and Lula. It doesn't feel the same with the son. The son seems well adjusted. And so he says, you know what? I'm gonna go. You guys have it under control without me. You know, I'm just wild at heart. And then walks away. And for some reason, again, he's walking. Remember, this was a thing early on in the Nick Cage movies where he just is walking in the middle of the road for some reason.
In the dead center middle of a big street, which for some reason has zero traffic.
Zero traffic, bunch of guys surrounding him.
Dude, it's like it's this scene. I feel like the guys are gonna start like singing like they're the Jets or the Sharks or
I was
something like
thinking the
that.
exact same thing. I was getting ready to say it's like the Jets and the Sharks. There's like 6 guys that start out like 50 feet away from him and slowly like come and surround
Well,
him.
they each kind of pop out from nowhere. Like this guy's from behind the corner. This guy's from behind a tree, a street light, or whatever. It's so funny.
We get the casual discrimination that we get in every 90s Nick Cage movie where he drops the F slur for a gay person, which he does apologize for afterwards. Um, he gets knocked out basically by these guys, and the Good Witch from Wizard of Oz shows up and basically tells him he should be with Lula.
But he's
And
wild at heart, Ryan.
right. And so he wakes up and all these guys are still around him, and he had a suitcase which he leaves with them. Who knows what was in that? But he apologizes for calling the guy that name, and then runs back and finds Lula in the middle of like a traffic jam. And his nose is like he has this huge
Jacked.
fake prosthetic nose. It probably looked good in 1990 on TV, but in any kind of HD format
Yeah.
does not look good. But yeah, he's clearly had his nose broken. But he sings her "Love Me Tender," which is the thing he said he would only sing when he was married, even though they're not married. So
Well, no, he says that I would only sing that to my wife. And
right,
so
but
I
they're not
think,
married.
not legally, but I think the implication there is he's saying that that's what he wants. He wants her to be his wife.
Okay, but she's not his wife. So he lied when he said that he would only sing that to his wife.
Not,
Anyway,
I think you're missing the metaphor here. I don't think he literally meant like because my name is on a piece of paper. I think he meant when I am ready for you to be my wife, I will sing
well
you
then he
that
should
song.
have said that.
Okay.
So that's it. That's the movie.
Jesus.
Um,
Fun fact about this movie. So this was shown at Cannes. They finished shooting it the day before, which that's very impressive, in my opinion, that they were able to scrape it all together that fast. It also originally was going to be rated X. There was no NC-17, and so they had to cut it down to get an R rating because David Lynch was contractually obligated to do so. So there was some alternate scenes and some more graphic deaths and stuff like that than what we got. Um, so that's something that might be out there for you if you're interested.
nice. Um, Under the related lists from IMDb users for this movie, there's one called "The Pervert's Guide to Cinema,"
Jesus.
"90s Musts." I don't know
Okay.
if I agree with that. And then there's one that's just called Cannes, so movies from Cannes Film Festival, I guess. Um,
Yeah, that's true.
anyway, what
Oh,
we
we didn't talk about what happened to the mother because I need to know what you think happens to the mom at the end of this movie.
I don't even remember what happened to the
Okay.
mom.
So during the end of the movie, when like Nick's out of jail and she's picking him up and all that type of stuff, they keep cutting back to her and she's like having a mental breakdown in her living room
Yeah.
and she like spills her drink and then they keep showing a picture frame of her and then
Oh, and then it
like the
disappears.
babies and then yeah, it like the picture fades away.
No, 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 no. You're not thinking like Wizard of Oz. It
She's
gets
the Wicked
water
Witch.
on it and it melts away.
Because she's the Wicked Witch.
Yes.
Okay, so
And
so
I
she died.
no credit to me on that one. That was again credit to my partner who was watching it. I said, "Why the fuck did that just disappear?" And she said, "No, it melted away like the Wicked Witch."
And I think it took too long for me to make that connection because they show it like three different scenes going back and forth. So she dies.
I
She
guess. Yeah, I
her
guess that's the
her
implication.
her heart breaks for her daughter and she dies.
So usually at this point in the podcast, we look at some user reviews from IMDb and see what people have to say about this movie because we don't want to be stuck in our own little world. We want to take into account what maybe some other people thought about this movie. So Derek, do you think I should start with the 10 out of 10s or the 1 out of 10s on this movie?
Let's start with the 1 out of 10s. We'll end on a high note.
So the 1 out of 10s, there's only 13 1 out of 10 movies, which is not a lot for a movie that has this particular amount of attention that this has on IMDb. The top 1-star review is very divisive. It has 37 helpful thumbs up and 37 down votes also from
Gotta love it.
Susie Q123 says it's not one of his best. I much prefer Blue Velvet, maybe because it was new and shocking and original, whereas here Lynch seems to be copying himself. Nick Cage seems to be doing his faux Elvis look at me all the time shtick, and Laura Dern just seems lost. The camera work is lovely, but to what end? It's kind of an empty story when all is said and done. As Emmanuel Levy says in his book of Cinema of Outsiders, the shocks have little resonance and the weirdness is trivial. The picture's hyperkinetic wildness is mostly on the surface. The images are elaborately conceived but meaningless, which I think ties in a lot to some of the things that we said.
Yeah, I
That's
agree.
a much more eloquent way of saying it. From McDoodad 49, What were the judges at Cannes thinking? This film goes in my memory archives as one of the worst ever. How this dreadful waste of time was awarded Best Film at Cannes is beyond me, and especially after a year that Sex, Lies, and Videotape was awarded the same honor. The latter was a great film. This one is not. Even though I love Blue Velvet, I've never been a big fan of David Lynch, and this movie is one of the reasons why. His overuse of descriptive imagery in this work is senseless, and in particular, the desert scene where the witch on the broom flies by, indicating a reference to Lula's evil, spiteful mother, who has a detective and a hitman trail them after they leave together for California. The scene where she was showing her anger after Sailor and Lula's departure was something out of a movie from the 30s or 40s, way too overacted. It was just her grimacing and menacing music playing. Nuts. Listening to Nicolas Cage singing Love Me Tender with a straight face just about capped it for me. About 30 minutes into the film, I was planning to hit the eject button, but kept watching to see if it would improve. It only got worse. I mean, I'm going to say that just glancing through these 1 out of 10 ratings, they're all very similar to those.
Yeah.
I don't think it would do us any better to read more of them. There's a lot of very similar feelings on that. I do not think this is a 1 out of 10 movie. I
No,
want to be very
no.
clear about that, but I do agree with a lot of the things that people are saying here.
Yeah.
So for the 10 out of 10s, it has 49 10 out of 10 reviews compared to the 13 1 out of 10s. The most upvoted one is from Van City Film Fanatic, who says this is mesmerizing. Recipient of the prestigious Palme d'Or Award at Cannes, David Lynch's Wild at Heart is an amazingly brilliant spectacle for the senses. Bold splashes of deep red, curiously staged musical numbers, and the continuous references to the Wizard of Oz help create a surreal and dreamlike texture to the narrative. The story in brief: Sailor and Lula, two broken souls passionately in love, flee the vengeful wrath of Lula's mother, Marietta, who, for reasons of her own, will stop at nothing to ensure the lovers are kept apart. Diane Ladd practically steals the show in her brave portrayal of Lula's psychopathic mother, Marietta. Gut-wrenchingly violent and plays as hopelessly romantic in others, Lynch has crafted an adult fairy tale worthy of multiple viewings. Recommended to those who enjoy and appreciate abstract methods of filmmaking. A definite 10 out of 10. So maybe it's just that you and I aren't as big of fans of abstract filmmaking.
I mean, I think that's certainly true. I've never been a big fan of it. I think because, at least in my perspective, a lot of people will call something abstract when there's just isn't a reason for it to be the way that it is.
Yeah.
And that doesn't mean that then it automatically gains meaning because it doesn't have meaning. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Let's see. There's one from H Prog here that says shock! Exclamation point. This movie is along my top 10 favorites. It's a shocking experience and a proof of what David Lynch's movies mean to those who enjoy shocking movies. It's a love story told in a different way. Great acting, great music, erotism. I think he means eroticism. Suspense. This film has everything you could ever want in a good movie. 2 thumbs up. And again, a lot of this, I don't see really any uh, reviews here that are trying to explain this movie,
Yeah,
but I mean, they're very similar in nature on the 10 out of 10s as well. Um,
that's fair.
so I actually am feel better about the fact that people aren't trying to explain this movie. They give it a 10 out of 10 because that means that maybe I didn't miss whatever symbolism or like deeper meaning this movie may have that people try and justify it with. It's just that I'm not a big fan of abstract movies. So
I think that's the case.
yeah.
Yeah.
So now we have to give it our own score.
Yeah, yeah, we do. So we have our Cage-O-meter. If you go to comingofcage.com, you can find a link to our interactive Cage-O-meter. And we score on a 20-point scale, one low, 20 high, on overall quality and overall caginess. We have a 20-point scale because Mr. Cage has been in a lot of productions, and we wanted to be able to see where all these are plotted out on the map. We thought that would be a little bit easier there. So, um, yeah, this is an interesting movie. Clearly, there are certain things that are done well from a technical perspective, from a cinematography perspective. I'm not like we've talked. I'm not a particular fan of the story. I do think some of the performances are over the top. They're caricatures in a lot of ways, but that's part of the absurdity of it all. So I think a lot of this comes down to do you buy into it or not? And in general, I don't. Again, it's not a terrible movie, so I do struggle a bit of where to put it. I think based on some of our previous ratings, I have to give it a 12.
I was thinking of 12 too. I mean, it didn't resonate with me, but I understand it has a passionate fan base and it has resonated with a lot of people. And just because I don't necessarily get it or appreciate this type of movie, I don't really want to downplay it because it is very artistic. I can give it that. It's if there's definitely something that David Lynch wanted to come across in this movie. Um, so yeah, I'm fine with a 12 as well. Yeah, it is what it is. I think that's fairly in line with the other movies that we've rated that we didn't necessarily get or, you know, I don't know.
Yeah. Well, and one thing we didn't really touch on much is the chemistry between Laura Dern and Nicolas Cage. I do find their love believable, even though their actions may be over the top. I do believe that they're in love with each other, which that
Agreed.
does say something.
And
So,
yeah, it's not really common in movies to see people that love each other this much.
mhm,
They are very in love with each other. And that was actually
very,
really nice to see.
yeah.
We didn't touch on that, but you're absolutely right. Laura Dern was really good and Cage was really good and they were believable 100%.
Mhm.
So yeah, I agree with you.
So then we have caginess. Now, this movie is kind of interesting because he does do the accent more or less throughout the whole film. He's got some mannerisms, he's got the point, he's got the snakeskin jacket, which by the way was his jacket
Yeah.
that he requested to wear in the movie, which becomes part of the story. I mean, he says multiple occasions that the jacket represents his individuality and all of that. So, you know,
The fight dancing on the side of the road, yeah.
Yep. So there's definitely caginess in here. I don't want to go too high, but tell me if I'm wrong. I'm feeling a 15.
I was thinking of 16, so we're not far off. I think he was very cagey throughout this entire movie. So, I mean, it's not Vampire's Kiss levels of cagey, but
No.
he was figuring himself out, during this time period. And I think that this one was a very cagey one.
Cool. Yeah, no, that's
And
great.
Defoe is very cagey in this as well. Like, you get a lot, everybody is very absurd in this movie. Really,
For
the only
sure.
person who's not that absurd is Laura Dern.
And she is at times. I mean, there's definitely some
She has her
times.
moments for sure, but I mean, I think she's the most grounded of all the characters, really.
Yeah. So, okay, so a 12 on quality and a 15 and a half on caginess, just for some perspective on where that puts it. Kind of puts it in line. It's close to Honeymoon in Vegas, but obviously very different tone, but it's close there. It's close to Guarding Tess. Those are the two closest films. It's in what we call our positive quadrant, where you have high quality but high caginess, so everybody should get something out of watching those movies. So to see where all the other movies landed though, go to comingofcage.com and check out our interactive cageometer. It does lag behind the show a few episodes. So by the time you're listening to this or watching this, the first 90 episodes will be covered out there. So you'll be able to see those first 89 movies. All right. So now, for those who don't know, if you're just joining us again, thank you. Welcome. Hope you enjoyed the show. We pick our movies by spinning our wheel o cage, and the wheel does not have every movie on it. So every time we watch a movie, that comes off the wheel and we have to replace it. And that list of remaining movies is dwindling. We are down to just 5 movies that have never been on the wheel, and we're going to pick one to find out what joins the wheel. So for those curious, never on the wheel: Captain Corelli's Mandolin, Drive Angry, The Croods: A New Age, The Retirement Plan, and The Rock have never been on the wheel. So replacing Wild at Heart and joining the wheel o cage, becoming eligible to be picked, is Peralta's favorite, Captain Corelli's Mandolin. So that is now eligible to be picked. To find out what movie we're going to talk about next time on the show, go to comingofcage.com and watch The Wheel o Cage. You can also find CageO Bingo, where we play custom Nicolas Cage themed bingo as we watch all of these movies. You can find our links to all the podcast networks you can subscribe to the Coming of Cage podcast on, as well as a link to our YouTube channel, Derrico Studios, where you can watch our bearded faces talk about these movies.
That's right.
Ryan, anything else for Wild at Heart?
And it made me want a snakeskin jacket.
That's fair. That's a good takeaway. All right. Well, thanks for watching and or listening, everybody. We will catch you next time.